Obviously, we're here for Uranium Day, so I'm actually not going to go into demand and supply balances and everything else like that because you've seen it all. I will point out a few things though, and on the left, this hasn't been mentioned yet, is last year the nuclear industry delivered the largest generation on record. And why that's really interesting, and I'll talk about that globally, but in Australia, we've had an election recently, a federal election, interesting outcome. And if you listen to a certain side of politics, actually if you listen to Labor, the Greens, or the Teals, they'll tell you that nuclear is a dying industry. There's no growth in nuclear. Well, we've just delivered a world record output before the West even gets started on new build. So that world record is delivered off Chinese and Indian new production coming online. Europe is still a bit of a drag, frankly, and the US has sort of been flat. Europe is now getting started. We've got the UK building 4 pretty big reactors. France will build another 14, but in the near medium term, they've also just said they will life extend 20 reactors over the next few years at a cost of only 7.5 billion euros. So it's going to be cheap. And then you've got the US coming online with Westinghouse AP1000s now in various stages of planning across the US, and you've got restarts happening. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the nuclear generation delivers over the next couple of years. What else have we had? We had Microsoft join the World Nuclear Association, so WNA in London, you did mention that. The big news coming out of there was Microsoft joining for the first time WNA. You'll probably see Google and a few other tech companies join that. The reason is AI and their massive needs for their data centres. So super exciting, and that was also the other news. You've got all this positivity and you've got some really near-term production issues with both Kazatomprom and Cameco downgrading their production by about combined 6 to 8 million pounds on total over the next year. Problem for Cameco is they're contracted, they'll be buying in spot. So that'll be fun for the spot market. So it's been a big day for Cauldron. We've released something which is on the right here. There's also some news about policy in WA. There is life in the uranium market in WA, and so we're up about 40% today. I'm not sure if it's because of that, or if it's because of the announcement, or the fact that we're actually on site about to start drilling again and finding more uranium. So we'll run through all of those. So we have announced an agreement with a company called Uranium. You may not know them. They are the 5th largest uranium company globally. More importantly, they actually invented ISR uranium mining. So everyone thinks it's the Kazakhs. No, it's the Uzbekistanis. They then gave that technology to Kazakhstan. So Uranium has over 30 years experience in ISR. They have 42 different uranium deposits they've got experience across. And so that's important for Cauldron because, as investors in Boss have found out over the last few weeks, ISR can be a little tricky. So having Uranium in our stable means we have the world's best ISR mines able to help us when we push forward with developing Yanri. It also is really quite helpful to show the WA government that the world's largest uranium companies are wanting to invest in WA. We've already got Cameco here at Kintyre and Yeelirrie, and now Uranium will also be in WA. So that is a great bit of momentum as we push forward with policy change. Quickly, we've gone through this. AI, the power demands for the AI industry are fun. Yeah, it's a bit of a meme. It's good for engagement. And so what did we see at WNA? I'm not going to talk about the demand and supply balance. You've already seen that. But just look at the top, which is second line there. You see the growth that's from the 2023 report, plus 66 gigawatts, basically. From the 2019 report, it's gone up. Uranium demand, their projection for uranium demand in 2040, bear in mind that's 2040, not 2050 like we're used to talking to here, that demand has gone up 50% from their previous 2019 forecast for the 2040 number. So, and that is continuing to go up, and there is no way to supply that under any combination of what's in the pipeline. So I say the uranium should come from Australia and it should come from WA, and so there is a parliamentary inquiry in a minute. I'm going to get onto that, and our Cauldron's new line for the WA government is uranium is good for the planet and it's great for the state of WA because we can help the world and our major trading partners, which is the concept of the parliamentary inquiry, we can help them decarbonise. So Australia is a large producer. We can produce a shitload. We can produce a lot more. And on one metric, you'll see this coming out in the submissions, uranium can make WA and Australia hit net zero on that basis. So the CCIWA has put out a report that shows in their base case of the uranium market in WA, if we develop as expected, WA's emissions are around 90 million tonnes of carbon a year, and the uranium sector could offset 400 million tonnes a year. So we would be massively net zero. And so here is the parliamentary inquiry, and I am going to get a little bit appealing to anyone in the room who likes to write submissions, and I know some would. This is open to the public, this submission. And I don't think I'm the uranium whisperer, but this is slightly prophetic because I think it was here a year and a half ago maybe, I said the first step towards policy change in WA would be a parliamentary inquiry that doesn't mention uranium, because that would just be crazy, but it's broad enough to cover it. And what have we got here? We've got a parliamentary inquiry into the role of Western Australia in the global effort on decarbonisation, including the export of green fuel. And the committee has confirmed green fuel includes uranium. So these submissions are due on the 10th of October. Anyone can put in a submission, urge you to. I will be putting in an encyclopedic submission, which will be made public so everyone can read it. From that point on, there's about a year of deliberation before the WA government or the committee delivers a final report. So that's plenty of time for advocacy for me, so I'm very happy that there's a process and we're going to do it right. So why uranium? Money for the state, diversification away from other commodities, always good to have more. Job security for mine workers. We help the world decarbonise, and it just makes sense, especially when we've got nuclear reactors sitting in submarines at Garden Island. And all of you like uranium, I'm sure. Actually, most of the state likes uranium. There's been polling done. The polling shows, obviously, that the majority of Liberal voters are pro-uranium. Polling also shows the majority of Labor voters are pro-uranium. And the most surprising aspect is the polling shows that 33% of Greens voters are pro-uranium. Now, that was the one statistic that was higher than I thought it would be. And in my submission, I will go through and absolutely dismantle every single one of the arguments against uranium. One of them is that they think that WA can't mine uranium safely, and we can't handle radiation. So I thought that particular point was worth mentioning. WA already handles more radiation than the uranium industry would through the mineral sands sector. So our mineral sands in WA are pretty hot. They contain a lot of monazite, and that's thorium. And actually the dose rates coming off that thorium ore is hotter than the rates we will get out of our uranium ore. And we're actually selling the radiation overseas, whereas the thorium stays in the waste and goes back onto the sites. Because of that, we have Australia's leading radiation safety management and reporting system in WA already operating. We also have a radioactive waste repository operating in Australia. It's the Tellus Holdings Sandy Ridge facility. I was the one that got that approved and built. It is an absolutely brilliant asset, and it completely solves any issue with respect to waste, because mining doesn't actually produce higher level waste, it only produces lower level waste, and if you can't put it back in the pit, you can absolutely put it at Tellus. So there are other arguments in my submission that I will encourage you to look at, but there is no reason that we can't do what South Australia already does. So if we look here, this is how uranium is safely exported and mined, inspected, and look here. These guys have got like a high-vis vest on. That's the only PPE they need. And they're sitting next to yellow cake, right? It's not actually that radioactive. In ground, it's only 0.7% U-235, which is the radioactive part. The rest is U-238. So, so the dose rate can be, in mineral sands, can be 2 to 10 times hotter. Yeah, it can. So then the yellow cake gets put in drums. It gets trucked down public roads, literally the public highway that goes through the middle of Adelaide. These trucks go down there. you know what, 30 years ago, the public did used to have these banners about no uranium mining South Australia. It does not happen anymore because no one cares, right? They are completely safe. It does get put into like a bonded bit of the port to make sure no one tries to mess with it, but it does go on a standard container ship, and out it goes. And that is exactly how we would propose to export uranium. And in fact, we would even truck to Adelaide to take it out because there is no licensed federal port in WA that can handle it so far. So what do we do about this? Well, we advocate for policy change, and we try and raise awareness, because people in WA think that WA is really good at mining, so therefore we must be good at uranium mining, and a lot of people don't realise there's a ban. So we make sure that people know there's a ban, and in fact, you know, I'm a little bit proud about this. I actually got a cartoon on Heard on the Terrace in the West a few weeks ago. It was tried to be derogatory as it is, but I think you've got to you take the good and the bad and go, if you're getting that engagement and that understanding and that level of awareness, then that's a good thing. We then engage in community as well. So that's not only engaging for, you know, the debate about nuclear energy in Australia, which is an ongoing debate, although not something for today, I guess. But we also engage with respect to uranium and the opportunities that it can provide for our local communities. And then I do lots of these things. So webinars, investor presentations, everything else. I'll attend the opening of an envelope if I get to talk about uranium. So any time you want to have a chat, my personal mobile number is on the bottom of every single one of our announcements. You can call up and we'll have a chat. In fact, a conversation like that, I mentioned that, someone called up. They are now our largest shareholder in Cauldron, off the back of a cold call. Which is fantastic. So I think this is in the ASX announcement. There's one of these slides which is not in the presentation up on ASX because ASX just won't allow it. Right, it makes perfect sense to change the policy now and at least start planning for it, because we know we're over-reliant on iron ore in WA, and it is you know, quite buoyant still, but Simandou's first production is due in November. It might be late by a month, but the Simandou ore is coming online. It's going straight to China. It's cheaper and it's higher grade than our Pilbara ores. Now that's not going to impact, the Pilbara ore is still going to go out, that's fine, but the high cost iron ore at the top of the curve will get cut out and that'll drop the price. So reductions in iron ore price hurt royalties, possibly jobs in some of the exploration and development in iron ore. We should have something that replaces that. That thing should be uranium. Right, this chart you won't see on the ASX, they don't allow it up. So what can you do to help? I always ask, call your local member or email them and say you support uranium. Now, they will respond to you if you're one of their local constituents. They kind of have to. And that is the way, you know, politicians really don't like getting inundated with emails about these topics, and that is the way that we have, I think, had some progress by getting a parliamentary inquiry in place, is by people have been raising it, and it is now a topic before Cabinet. I do a few fun things, and I didn't send that Premier to that pen to the Premier. That is a AI-generated pen, but I intend to do that once we're ready to change, to actually get policy changed. So what is Cauldron doing? We're out on site again. We're finding more uranium. So we've just finished our passive seismic. That's the guys up on the left. Wallace are coming out to drill for us in a couple of weeks. And where we are drilling is really interesting. I'm going to go here, this one. No. There we go, okay. So we are drilling where these green lines are. This is where the passive lines were. And the drill campaign is going to focus down here on 1A in this tenement E3204. That tenement we just picked up from Twiggy Forest. Andrew owed us some money for something. We took a tenement as payment. Now that tenement is super interesting because it is immediately contiguous with the high-grade Meningie South deposit that we discovered last year. Literally the high-grade portion, when you look at the grade tonnage curve, it mysteriously stops at the tenement boundary because we couldn't drill it. So we are out drilling that in a couple of weeks. There is more high-grade uranium there. The other cheeky part we're doing is number 2 up the top there, which we think is a continuation of Paladin's Meningie deposit. If we make a new discovery there, we'll call that maybe Meningie North, as opposed to Meningie South, and there's also Meningie East. So this is a prolific region. We've got 42 million pounds in JORC. Paladin's got 40 million pounds on Meningie and their Carly Bore deposit. We think we've got 100 million pounds in our tenements at least, and we are drilling to find it. And we've done a scoping study based on a very small initial project because a chunk of our resource is still inferred, and so that limits the amount we can put in the scoping study on ASX rules. Look at the IRR, look at that NPV. It is unfair at 79%, and that is because it is ISR. Cheaper to build, cheaper to operate. Blows conventional mining out of the water. Why? Because you don't have to move dirt, you don't have to crush dirt, which means you have less power requirements. So we will be pushing forward. Even though we're up a bit today, we are still cheap. We are at around 35 to 40 cents a pound of uranium in JORC, and we are about to find more uranium. So as soon as policy change happens, and we are valued the same as a project in South Australia, you can quickly do the maths on that and realise how many times value on the share price there is. So it is a busy time for us. The strategic announcement, that's Navorian, that was today. Passive seismic is looking good, was finished, and the drilling starts in a couple of weeks. The government inquiry is very exciting, and I'm very thankful to the WA government for giving us the opportunity to make submissions. This is where the industry comes together. We will all be making submissions. And there are a number of companies involved in the WA uranium sector. Ourselves, Toro, I'm not sure if Toro here today, Cameco, Deep Yellow, and a few others. We will all be making submissions to the government, and we thank them for the opportunity to do that. This is what this does. So we've got lots of uranium. There's going to be a lot more of it. The scoping study is unfair. The IRR at 79% is simply unfair compared to other types of mining. And Meningie South will continue to grow. So we've got 11 million pounds just at Meningie South. Expect that to grow quite strongly. And that sort of underpins this regional model that we talk about. So I'd like to build a project. I built the Teller Sandy Ridge facility, right? I like building stuff. I don't think I'm going to get the opportunity to build Yandere. It's not because policy doesn't change. It's because we've got Paladin next door to us, and there are other ISR producers in Australia like Boss and General Atomics. We are too attractive. We will get taken out. I bet my bottom dollar we get taken out as policy changes. So the strategy then is to build pounds on the balance sheet, continue drilling out that resource to make us as attractive as possible. The WA government uranium ban, as I said, it is a very good step forward, this parliamentary inquiry, and there will be more coming over the next year. So I think please stay tuned. And Navorian, I realise not many people know about Navorian. I'm in the hall over there all day. Come and have a chat about it if you've got some questions. It is truly a remarkable opportunity and relationship for Cauldron. And whilst it's an initial agreement, we've got a bit of work to do to formalise stuff up because being a state-owned entity, they need FIRB approval before they invest literally $1 in the company, but that kind of stuff is on the table. So exciting time, and please put us on the watch list.